Hey guys, this is Alex, and welcome to the Two Dudes Brews Interviews podcast. On today's episode, we're talking about a big franchise for the first time in a while, it seems, with Steven Spielberg's 1993 film, Jurassic Park. We get into the filmmaker's legendary career, the Jurassic Park series as a whole, and how its 30th birthday just so happens to coincide with mine. If you like what you hear, consider subscribing to the podcast, leave us a rating and review, and maybe even tell your friends about us. With that being said, we hope you enjoy the show.
Yeah, man, we're doing this is your movie, man.
Yeah, I chose to do the 1993 science fiction action adventure film directed by Steven Spielberg, the man, the myth, the legend.
The guy that hasn't made a good movie since.
That's not true.
We'll get there. Sorry.
We will talk about, I think we have a lot of background stuff to hit, like regarding Spielberg and the Jurassic Park franchise.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get into some of that. The reason I recommended this movie now is because it just turned 30, like June 9th, I think. That's exactly a month away from when I turned 30.
You old fuck.
I'm an old fuck. And yeah, I'm very nostalgic for this movie.
Good.
I think I said on the last episode when I did my spiel that this was the first movie I think I ever truly loved. Like that wasn't a Barney VHS or like Lady and the Tramp or fucking Toy Story. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I had like a similar situation because I think when I was young, like we liked kids movies, but Jaws was my first movie that maybe E.T. Maybe we saw E.T. and we liked that a lot when we were younger. But like when I started to like feel like I had a little bit of consciousness, a little like a slight level above being like a little kid, like we got really into like Jaws. I used to watch Jaws on repeat, dude. And now, if I tried to watch that shit, I would shy away. It would fucking terrify me because I'm like, when you're a kid, you can really dissociate from the idea of death. And like, I feel like horror films feel like, you know, monster films, like The Thing, Jaws, in Jurassic Park in this case, where it's like run from a monster classic, you know, obviously Spielberg, but I don't know, the stakes feel so much different now. It's like, these people are making bad decisions. Like, stop it.
I did not see Jaws until like 3 years ago. For
What?
The first time.
Oh my God, dude. I wanted to draw similarities to that because when that movie was made, it was like the camera work for the time was like just so fucking cool. Like I love how grainy that film is. Compared to this film, the 90s kind of feel like film is just starting to sprout into something like beautiful. And I don't know, like I guess maybe even for the time, like when was The Matrix made? 99 or was that?
It was like at the verge of the
2000s.
Yeah.
Early 2000s are weird. It's like the spawn of like a lot of digital work, a lot of, you know, CGI and all that, and like this feels like the last big shebang before that took over, because then like Pixar started at the same time as this, and like you really start getting like this renaissance of digital work in film. Obviously this film as well, but I think this film is so much more grounded than like what comes to follow in the following, you know, 5 to 10 years, which I think is why it still holds up. And I think it's, to me personally, I know it's what, 98?
This movie?
You're 95.
93.
God, you're old. That's right. But it still feels really grounded in classic filmmaking. The set design mixed with the CGI. I think I watched this like in 4K and it still looked fucking amazing.
Did it?
Yeah. I mean, it still felt like true to its original form.
I've never seen it in 4K. I watched it in like just regular Blu-ray HD. And this is the first time that I really went into the movie like with a critical eye. Like every time I've ever returned to Jurassic Park, it's always like, I love this movie and I'm going to turn my brain off and experience it for the next 2 hours. It does hold up, but I did notice like some age stuff. But I think they knew what they had with the technology and they knew the limitations and they worked around it.
Yeah. I think something that I really love that helps ground the film for me still is the camera work is just based in like that classic, almost like at times reminds me of like John Carpenter and Hitchcock. The camera work just feels really, I don't know, how do I put this? It makes it feel like there's a lot of movement for what otherwise would be at some spots in the film, like very static shots. Like one of my favorite standout shots is, and it's such a small moment in the grand scheme of the film, but like when they're in, you know, like what is that called? Like the tour, like the animatronic theater seats and like,
yeah.
Oh, hey, John. Oh, hi, John. You're looking up at Alan Grant and he's resting his arms on the railing in front of him. I don't know, just the way that the camera is positioned on him from like almost slightly underneath him looking upward. It kind of does a really good job of showing the character's like excitement, like he's completely locked into like the amazement going on.
This is a common Spielberg angle.
I don't know, it does a really good job of conveying emotion through a character in the camera work, like, because otherwise like a lot of the fucking dialogue is super dry and a lot you know what I mean, like
it barely hits comedic beats every once in a while, but like kind of
a lot of scientific talk. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to play your characters up in a way that's a little bit more digestible for an audience to understand their personality through like the way they're positioned on screen. Obviously, we have Alan. God, forgive me, but what is Laura Dern's character's name?
Ellie Sadler.
We're calling her Laura Dern.
That's fine with me.
And Jeff Goldblum, who gives a shit?
He's himself in this, like every other movie.
Yeah, it's Jeff Goldblum. He has one lane.
And I'm fine with that.
He's played it for 40 years now. Yeah. I don't know. Being able to convey a lot of emotion, and sometimes I think the dialogue is hard to hear, but you get the gist of what's going on because I think all the other elements are working around it really well.
I did think the audio mixing for dialogue was weird in a few scenes. Like, not every scene.
No.
Sometimes, like, it would be very obvious that it's ADR. Sometimes the music would be too loud over everything else. Those are, like, minor complaints from me. With the camera movement stuff, you mentioned, like, the roughness of, like, Hitchcock or, who was the other person you mentioned?
Carpenter.
Those are good examples. They do, I guess I'm going to call it like boots on the ground filmmaking, where like it really feels like a man is holding the camera and like walking around to create like a dynamic feel. What was the scene that you mentioned? Alan watching the TV, or the theater thing. It introduces itself as like a really static shot. It might do like a zoom, like a slow zoom into his face, but then there'll be like unexpected movement where usually it would just edit out of the shot to something else, but then like the camera will like follow
whatever object's moving. Like, and for that example is like the railing.
Like it's like really unexpected. Like, oh, like we're not gonna just, I don't know. There's a couple shots like that in this movie where we're sitting on something for a while and then we like swoop around a corner. And I'm like, oh, like, whoa.
Oh yeah. Like, classic example that you're bringing that up is like the raptor scene in the kitchen. There's a bunch of that where you have like these really static close-ups of terror, and then you're gonna take a camera path that is like really bizarre. The camera movement is really bizarre, even for like what they were doing with the CGI. Like in that moment specifically towards the end of the film, it's like that's a big bet to do a lot of that. Obviously, same with the T-Rex, and at some points for the T-Rex, it's quite a bit. It kind of shows its age
a little bit. Yeah.
The only time I saw it was I kind of got taken out of it was like the Jeep chase when the dinosaur is chasing the Jeep when Goldblum's in the back and you have the CGI through the side mirror.
It's a weird shot.
I
like that shot, but
great.
The CGI is weird.
Yeah, the lighting on the T-Rex is all fucked up.
I think the objects in the mirror may appear closer than they are. Like that gag. Like, that's just such a Spielberg type thing to do.
Damn, I didn't even think about that.
There's another one at the end of the movie that we'll get to later that I love a lot. It's like kind of cutesy, like an old trope in a way. Like a dad joke or something.
For sure. You know, something that like really surprised me was like the pace of the film.
Why do you say that?
When I was younger, I remember it being feeling so much longer than what it is. It's like 2 hours, but it also felt like a really clean, quick 2 hours.
Somehow it ends up feeling like 90 minutes.
Yeah,
weirdly.
I know. Yeah. Maybe it takes like 20 minutes to get the movie started. You know what I mean? Like get the characters in the middle of our plot. But even that happens really fast. Felt like that goes by in a blink of an eye, and all of a sudden we're on the island.
I mean, to be honest, there's not action for a long-ass time.
The only time it happens is at the very beginning of the film when they're putting the raptor in the cage, which, as a kid, there was a couple things in the beginning of the film that really threw me for a loop now that I have what otherwise, I guess, would be, like you said, a critical eye. I don't know if when the last time I've seen this film or like actually understood what was going on, but I never understood that that was John's son. I thought it was just some dude doing a bad thing, and I'm like, oh, no, it's John's son trying to get these dinosaur embryos.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
Like the Wayne Knight character, Nedry? Like
yes.
The fat guy?
That's his son.
What?
Yeah, you didn't pick up on that? That blew me away.
I thought he made like he does say like, oh, thanks, Dad. Like, I thought it meant like,
no,
he's talking down to him.
No, so, okay, because I never picked this up plot-wise as a kid. Yeah, this is blowing your mind, you fucking old ass. Sorry, you shouldn't have said that because I'm going to be on that all night.
You do that all the time. It's not
You're
Exclusive
30.
to just tonight.
Yeah, you're almost 30. Yo, fuck.
I'm not 30 yet.
You're almost. Shut the fuck up. It's like next week.
It doesn't count yet.
Oh God, I can't wait. It'll count forever now. He makes that deal with Dachshund. We got Dachshund here. See, no one gives a shit. He makes a deal to get these dinosaur embryos for money. He wants a fuck ton of money. I never understood what he was doing as a kid. Like that scene in particular, didn't understand it. When Ned, I will call him Ned, is in the room for the last time before he goes out, John says, "Oh, I don't want to have another financial debacle with you." And the way he's talking to him, it's like family. And he says, "I don't blame people for their mistakes, but I expect them to pay for them." That's what John says to Ned. And he's like, "Thanks, Dad," or you know, whatever. Like, I'm like, oh, like that's his son, and his son made a financial mistake, and now he's got to work it off. And so his way out is to sell these dinosaur embryos and like sink his dad's company.
Are you 100% sure about this?
Yes, that's his son.
This is going to drive me crazy.
Which drives me crazy for another reason.
And why is that?
It's like, why would you do this? It's fucking crazy.
So that means like his like little niece and nephew would have been on this tour?
Yeah.
And like he's putting them in danger?
Yeah. He's a fucking idiot.
I'm going to have to process that for a bit.
Yeah,
honestly.
exactly.
I've never caught that. I really thought that he says, "Thanks, Dad," because like he feels like he's being talked down to.
No, that's like
in a childish way.
Yeah, that's for sure his dad.
Well, alrighty then. What the fuck? That's like never brought up again in
Ever.
any of the sequels.
Yeah, and that's we'll get there. But there's a lot that like I really fucking love this now, even still, after I've seen it a bunch of times, and it was like fucking terrifying, by the way. For me.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of it, what was selling me was the sound design.
Hey, there's a reason it won Best Sound Design at the Oscars that year.
Did it really? Oh, okay.
And editing and special effects, of course. Those were the only three.
Probably didn't win Best Picture. Probably went to a drama that everyone forgot about.
No, this wasn't really looked at like legendary when it came out.
time.
This was a popcorn blockbuster. I think we
Became
only
a cult classic, though.
I think we only look at it so fondly now because like blockbusters have mutated into this like weird soulless corporate like $300 million empty suit walking around. Like,
What a way to put it. Good God,
I
you
hate
ain't
it.
lying. Let's have a tall guy and a short guy become buddy cops, and they'll have a lot of comedic elements. And you'll have a cameo villain played by fucking Liam Neeson or
Michael Shannon.
Yeah, or fucking Mads Mikkelsen, and that pisses me off. That guy needs to fucking stop doing that.
He's gonna be the villain in the new Indiana Jones movie.
So stupid.
Speaking of Spielberg,
So fucking stupid. Yeah, you're right. Corporatized. And it sucks because I think like the beloved blockbusters now are, again, we just talked about it, but like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was like, that felt like a uniting film for like everyone to love, kids and family and older adults, and something for everybody there. And the themes are crazy.
what was the last live action blockbuster that was received well that wasn't?
Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, okay, that's a good answer.
But it's a modern take on classic blockbuster structure, and like that's why it was good.
Yeah, that one was great.
And so it's like, okay, why don't they take... It's like just studios and writers that are like, what do we got? Barry makes a lot of good commentary on it in that show about like, there's literally Barry's like, oh, you'd be really good in that. You're tall. You know what I mean?
That's such a great joke too.
And it's funny knowing it comes from Hader and those writers. Like, it's like, okay, it's classic commentary because like they come from SNL writer rooms and that world, and they're like, fuck these people.
Yeah, they know how to do satire.
It's great.
Yeah.
I mean, Spielberg is great, man. Don't get me wrong. Spielberg is fucking awesome. And like, he still is to an extent, but now he just like executive produces everything into oblivion.
I think he was like so loved that it came back around and like people thought he was like overrated. Like he's not really in the discussion of
Best directors.
I've never met anybody that said like Spielberg's my favorite. You know, like it'd be like too basic to say, but
he's also like the groundwork for like modern cinema. So I don't really know that you can be like, you can't put him in the discussion now. Because when you look, I think even now, like even though Spielberg's very much alive and healthy, I feel like his name in the discussion now is like that great movie X amount of years ago.
Yeah.
He's from the old Hollywood system too.
I mean, I loved his last movie. Like it was in
The
my top.
Fabelmans,
It was in
yeah.
my top 3 of the last year.
But also he did West Side Story, which like flopped hard. I heard no one talk about that movie, and you know what I mean. And
Got good reviews.
yeah, but still, does that matter?
The Fableman's flopped.
Yeah, I don't know. That bothers me though, because it never feels like the guy is breaking ground anymore. As far as like his films don't feel. The exciting stuff now is The Fringe, when The Fringe makes its way to the mainstream. That's what's exciting now. And when the mainstream is trying to be like, look how good I still am, it gets kind of boring. Because it's like, yeah, we know. We know you've been good for a long time.
Does he have any great movies in like the 2000s?
I don't think so. He did. Let me pull up his
Minority
discography.
Report, maybe.
That's what I was going to say. Minority Report, I think, was like one of them.
He worked with Kubrick on the movie AI.
Yes, and I like just am now hearing about this movie, by the way. I never knew this was a thing, and I keep getting clips for it now, like on my TikTok. And like now I want to watch it because it's like very high concept, which is what I like.
I don't think it's considered one of his best movies, but like it's probably good at the very least.
Yeah, and I'm gonna pull up his discography real fast. Bear with me one moment. I'm gonna Rotten Tomatoes. It's my favorite one to use. Like the scores there.
Me and you both do that. We always say the word discography on accident when talking about fucking.
It's his filmography.
I do it all the time.
Yeah, we're fucking.
I cannot help myself.
We are retarded. He directed Ready Player One, which
you love that one, right?
But I like it for that's a movie that's a blockbuster, but it's also corporatized as fuck.
Okay.
He directed The BFG. That was in 2016.
I've not seen that.
Directed Lincoln in 2012.
Munich is probably around that time, I think.
Yup. War Horse, I remember seeing in theaters. That was 2011. It was okay.
I had never heard about that movie until I watched the Spielberg documentary.
He executive produced Real Steel with Hugh Jackman. I fucking loved that movie. Oh my god.
Is it good?
Kinda?
Like by our standards now.
It's got a 73 audience and a 60% critic. But it's very heartfelt. Executive produced Transformers. Executive produced Eagle Eye, which I actually liked when I was younger.
I did too.
I probably would hate it now. He directed Munich in 2005. Directed War of the Worlds in 2005.
That was probably the last really huge one. But it
was received very poorly by a lot of people.
I heard it was mid.
Jurassic Park 3. Minority Report was 2002. It got an 80% audience, 90% critic. And then he did Catch Me If You Can in 2002 as well.
Oh, that one's fucking great. How did I forget about that one?
He directed The Lost World?
He did.
Really?
He did.
Schindler's List was 93.
I don't know what it is with Spielberg and like when he actually directs the sequel to one of his big franchises. It's like usually not great.
It's probably because there's too many hands in the pot at that point. Can you imagine how many people want to jump on board when you make something great and put their name on it and like just fucking ruin something?
Have you ever seen Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom?
With Shia LaBeouf?
This is the second one with like the Indian death cult. And
I don't really remember that one.
It sucks. A lot of people will defend it. I think that movie sucks.
I haven't seen Indiana Jones since I was probably my teens, and I would really like to rewatch those sometime.
I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark for the first time like 2 or 3 years ago, and I fucking loved it. It is an amazing movie.
I remember being at Disney World as a kid and seeing the live action stunt show. I believe it was at Animal Kingdom for a long. I don't know if they still do it anymore. They probably don't. Or no, was that Universal?
Or like the dude runs away from the boulder. It's Disney.
Is it?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, it is.
You know what?
I think at that time it might have been Universal.
I think it was.
And then it got bought out.
God, rights are fucking weird.
I hate it.
I hate that shit. But yeah, I think Spielberg, he has the classics under his belt to where even though he's not in the conversation anymore about like best directors, I think people should put some respect on the name.
Yeah.
Damn it.
For sure. Yeah, dude. Jaws is one of like, I remember Jaws so much. And like E.T., like we haven't even talked about E.T., but dude, E.T. was like fucking wild.
That movie's like kind of scary too.
It is.
Honestly. Even as like an adult.
Like the way that film starts out too, it reminds me of like Nightmare on Elm Street. Like it's like pitch black outside, like they're out in the shed and like Reese's Pieces, and it was a weird time.
Where do you want to go with Jurassic Park? Been kind of like floating.
Yeah, I want to talk about like some of my favorite scenes. Mine in particular was the T-Rex. When the T-Rex is first introduced and the sequence that follows for about 20 to 30 minutes. That's my favorite pocket of the film.
Same here. Is this like when they pull up to the paddock late at night?
Until about when they wake up the following morning. That spot right there is the sweet spot for me.
I completely agree.
And it's also like the first climax. It's right before the second act slump.
And it's like the first big payoff that we've had since like literally the first scene. When do you think this takes place? Like 45 minutes in? 50?
No, dude. It at least goes to like 1:15, and then you get like a solid setup for 25, and then like a 30 or another like 25-minute third act climax. To me, the setup is really good though. Like the setup pays off a lot because I say setup 10 times in a row here, but you get to set up all of our characters' personalities and like their influence and commentary when coming to the island, and it finally you get like quips and payoffs during these sequences. I loved seeing the transition from the lawyer being skeptical to being like, we're going to make a shit ton of money with this place, from the scientist being extremely excited to being extremely skeptical, all while surrounded by what is essentially just a classic. It's like a horror thriller, actually.
It really is.
Like the structure of the story itself. It reminds me of The Thing, Jaws. Those two movies in particular feel the most closely connected to it because it's set up something exciting and fun and unique for these sets of characters. We give them hope and we start littering in concern. Concern gets out of hand quickly. Big stakes, try to solve things while on the run. Big fun payoff in the end. And then everybody gets to go home. The Thing is a little bit more tragic than
The Thing is a very cynical movie.
And so is Jaws, but it's just a classic setup. And then the tone of the film ultimately comes across as a more marketable action adventure, kid, family, marketable, merchandisable sequel.
Slap it on a lunchbox before you even knew what you had. Yeah.
That shit was meta. They
did the fucking thing.
And they put it in the gift shop. Like you get to see the gift shop. Piss break.
This is like my favorite kind of tension. What makes it so great is that it's really patient. Before the T-Rex even shows up, there's like 10 to 15 minutes of doubt leading up to this scene.
Oh, yeah.
With like people getting in and out of the cars. And like, I want to say that the water glass that like vibrates as the T-Rex approaches.
Yeah.
That's like one of my favorite visual motifs in a movie ever.
You're right with the build up. Because you're given this sense of like the dinosaurs aren't even out to be displayed. Like they're not even there. And you get that like even when they are there, they hide them. Like the raptors in particular. The raptors are a ominous hidden thing. And then the T-Rex is like he doesn't want to be fed, is what Alan says. He wants to hunt. And then we get to see the hunt. There's really good small dialogue setups that end up being visually shown to the audience, which is like really exciting because it's like it's in a bubble. It's in a nice tight bubble. It's still. I mean, there's only a couple moments in the film where I felt like it was trying to be culturally relevant.
Oh yeah,
like I don't know, like you felt like the Laura Dern feminist comment stuff, like with John towards the end of the film, and then.
Ooh, do you remember what the dialogue is?
It's like. God creates dinosaurs. God kills dinosaurs. God creates man. Man creates dinosaurs. Dinosaurs kill man. Woman inherits the earth. And they look at her like, what the fuck? And they just like let that hang in the air. And then she says to John about like the walkie-talkie situation. He was going to go with safari hunter motherfucker. I can't remember what his name is.
Muldoon.
God, yeah. The safari guy.
Such a safari name.
Muldoon.
He was born for the job.
He's born in West Africa. Yeah. Speaking of accents, we'll get there, but I'm glad you're on the same pace with me. Jesus Christ. That took me out a little bit. And then the other thing that took me out is accents. I don't know if you caught it a couple times.
What's his face? Alan Grant.
Is he British?
Sam Neill. Yeah, he is.
I caught it one time. And it was very subtle, but I picked up on it because I was only trying to pay attention to it because I caught John trying to do like the Scotland Irish accent. And then like he does it at the beginning, he drops into like an American, and then he like tries to pick it back up towards the end. And
you gotta love the inconsistent dialect.
Yeah. Alan, the only time I caught him was at the fence. It sounded like he was like, well, I guess we're going to have to climb it then, or something. Like it was something really bizarre. Like, I don't know. I caught him ever so slightly, and that kind of took me out. But for the most part, it felt pretty clean.
I can't say like it was super distracting though.
No, but it kind of like just felt like he drops into it subtly. Like when he's whispering, it almost feels like he's whispering in an American accent when he's talking softly, and then when he's trying to be performative, he goes into like the Scottish Irish.
Back to the fucking T-Rex scene. I feel like there's like more shit I want to bring up.
Yeah. No, of course. Yeah.
It's incredible how perfect the sequence of events is with the shot of like the empty lamb cage.
Oh yeah.
The leg hitting the window.
Uh-huh.
And then like the head of the T-Rex coming out from the woods. This animatronic is literally one of the most incredible things I think I've ever seen.
You know, this movie was reminding me so much of why I think Avatar: The Way of Water was so fucking good, is because they blended, even though it is so heavily digitized, like 90% of the fucking film is digitally rendered. I think all of it is probably, but they used on-set props. When Sam is strapping onto the back of one of the water horse things, whatever the fuck they're called, it's a real hand, and they just color grade it to be blue. And there's like an actual leather strap there that they'd like matte paint in and everything. Like stuff like that, it helps ground it, and it felt so real. And then
You have to have that.
with this film, it still holds up even for the time. And like obviously you kind of have to give this film its room to breathe in its own world and time, but one of the things that I think is so strong for it, the film almost feels like extremely illustrative at times. I don't know if you felt this way.
What do you mean?
Illustrative? Like the color and the lighting was so perfect in some shots where I'm like, wow, sometimes I wish things were this contained on set at time. Like it's like a little dirty, but it was really unique for the time. Like in particular, for me, it's when they're waking up in the morning and the brachiosauruses are like hanging out in the treetops with them. The color is so warm, orange, purple, blue, like this color palette on set. I mean, on set is so unique, and it like beautifully illustrates what it would be like for the sun to rise on a canopy. To me, a moment like that, and then like an industrial basement of like the compound area, like the engineering room. There were times where they had like overhead lights, and like one of them was like a greenish hue, one of them was like a reddish pinkish hue, and then like you have other cool normal standard LED bulbs, but like the smoke in the room from Samuel's cigarette is like helping push these beams of light on camera. Like just the color is so I don't know, illustrative to me. Like the color palette on set is really unique to me.
Where like modern day it would be like added in post or something, like it'd be like a fake shiny hue, like
and just feeling like it was breaking out of the box a little bit, even for like kind of how old it was, you know? Because when I think about like Spielberg, I'm thinking about Jaws to me, and Jaws is like a very bland, beachy color palette.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like in other stuff outside of Jaws, the set design is very expressive, or like character design.
I don't know. Maybe it's like, to me, it's the old world of filmmaking at its highest peak. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what it is.
Man, this is like the shit that gets me real sad. Like when we talk about that, the old world, it's like, if you want that, you have to
go find it there.
Go to the past.
There's nothing new being made like that. Yeah. Well, that's what makes it unique, man. I mean, you can't, because if they did it now, people would be like, this was the most fucking low budget garbage I have ever seen. I don't know why anybody would pay $70 to take a family of 4. And then Twitter would eat that shit up, and critics would destroy it.
There's just something magical about these practical effects, big, expensive sets.
Yeah, man.
Like back when directors could actually afford to do that.
A lot of like the times when I was watching the film, I was like thinking about the set. I'm like, I know that's not a real tree, and I want to know what it feels like for the actor to step on whatever material they're stepping on. Like, because like one of the biggest things that I was trying to think of was how much they have to act. They have to act like this prop is the most amazing thing they have ever seen. And I even think like there's commentary on it. But like the kids, they thought they were real because they hadn't seen him before. When I think maybe that was E.T. actually. Elliot and Drew Barrymore hadn't seen E.T. yet, and so when they first saw him, it was like he was real.
Ah, I see.
But in terms of like Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, everybody else, all the adults in the room, and even the child actors have to be like, oh my God, it's a fucking dinosaur.
I was thinking that during the very first dinosaur reveal scene, where honestly, that's the worst CG shot in the movie, which honestly, very ballsy of them to have the very first dino shot like in
Broad daylight.
Like, whoa, okay. There was a few shots in that scene that looked okay.
Yeah. At the time, though, dude, that was like mind blow.
Oh yeah, of course. But I think the actors like did a really good job of actually
my God,
making you think they believed it was right there.
One of the things that I picked up on with this watch was like Alan, his knees shaking, and like Laura's like, put your head between your legs, but like
he's like about to pass out.
Yeah, man. I love that. I loved their expression. That's hard. That's hard to do.
The shot of them pulling up and Laura Dern is like, her face is in this what should be extinct leaf.
Mm-hmm. She's a
botanist.
Paleobotanist, yes.
Yeah. This is like with the T-Rex scene as well, but the order of events where you see Sam Neill stand up and like take his glasses off, and like Jeff Goldblum notices what he's seeing, and then like he grabs Laura Dern's head and like picks her up. The reaction shots of everyone, it really gives the movie like the awe feeling. Like, whoa, like, like there's magic here.
Yeah.
Sam Neill, when he notices that the dinosaurs are like hanging out in herds, he has tears in his eyes.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing. Like, it makes me feel like a little kid, kind of.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
Oh, speaking of little kids, like, I love the theme of, like, I never caught on as a kid, but, like, as an adult, I'm like, oh, man, that adds, like, a really nice layer of him learning to love children. And, like, in the beginning of the film, him and Laura Dern are like, oh, they stink and they're gross. And, like, the way he treats that kid at the dig site, you know, like, terrifying the shit out of it, like traumatizing this fucking kid in front of everybody. Like,
that scene is so funny.
I want to speak about that kid for a second.
That thing ain't scary.
That turkey. That kid's definitely has to be wearing like fake eyelashes, like with mascara, because
there is something weird about that face.
Because like I think the makeup artists were like, we need to have him stand out. Like you need to be able to see his terror. Like when his eyes are blinking. That was one of the moments where I'm like, that was a really poor choice of like old world Hollywood right there.
Yeah. I think even him shouting out in the first place, like, that thing ain't scary, like, it's kind of cheesy.
It is.
But I forgive it because I like the monologue that Alan gives about velociraptors. Like, it's just a reason for him to, like, spout exposition at that moment.
I think it's very much akin to classic beginning of a plot, where movies can afford to be really cheesy and corny at the beginning in that certain time period. In Jaws, it's a lot of like really boring, quick quips at the beginning, and then it builds into something chaotic. You know, like kids on the beach and dialogue between a man and wife, like at their beach home and shit like that, where it's like really grounded, and the stakes are so low at this point that it can afford to be.
Jaws is very understated for like 90% of the movie.
Yeah, well, yeah, man. The only time you get that first big payoff is when what's his face gets eaten on the boat.
Oh my God, the third act of that movie is probably the best thing Spielberg's ever done.
Yeah, man, it's a weird one. Culturally, it's really, really bizarre because it made people go out and want to kill sharks.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I feel like Spielberg was trying to like atone for the sins of that with a few dialogue choices here. With like the little girl saying, like calling the dinosaurs monsters, and he's saying they're just animals and they like act like according to instinct.
Yeah, you're right.
I can't help but feel Spielberg probably regretted like turning sharks into like a creature feature type thing.
You're so fucking right. It spawned like a culture of fear around sharks. And then like think about how many people are like in this country in particular, just say this country, probably think sharks are one of the most terrifying things on earth. And then like probably the people that are most likely to be in contact with sharks, like on the West Coast, for example, are like, yeah, man, like it's just a thing, and it like happens very rarely.
Yeah, it's super rare.
It is, but it like vilified the shit out of them, and it's kind of strange. You're making a Ridley Scott alien film with on Earth, and you have to vilify something that we like are familiar with, and so it turns it into something stupid. Xenomorphs don't exist, and they aren't even cute in any way. Like sharks can be cute sometimes when their teeth aren't around your neck. But yeah,
I don't know.
But yeah, that's pretty smart. I never really. God, you have a weird perspective on Spielberg that I don't.
I think like the respecting nature theme of the movie is weirdly carried out like in the sequels of this franchise, even as like Jurassic Park got way dumber.
Yeah.
How many times in the series? Wait, how many of these have you seen?
I've seen them all but the most recent one.
How many times in the series can you remember a human killing a dinosaur?
0.
I can't think of a single one.
Yeah, no, I can't. Even like they have the gun, they're incompetent with it, which like bothered me a lot.
I think the only time dinosaurs die in this series is usually like environmental or
They eat
like
each other.
Dinosaur versus dinosaur.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah. Okay.
That's weird. I cannot believe they lost the plot on so many themes in the
that's the
sequels.
one.
They kept that consistent. That's
They're
weird
running-
to me.
I liked Jurassic World when it came out, dude. I think we went and saw it in theaters.
Really?
I liked it when it came out. Now, like the third act in that film, like is what pisses me off a lot.
With them letting the T-Rex loose and like
Yeah.
Bryce Dallas Howard
Carrying
runs
the
away.
flare.
She runs
Which-
away on heels.
I think the flare is kind of an homage, though.
It is.
You know.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, running in the heels, that pisses me off too. That's the dumbest shit in the world.
The level of disdain that I have for like the Jurassic World movies is, I don't know if it can even be measured. When Jurassic World 1 came out, I felt like I was the only person in the world that
Didn't
hated
like
it.
The second one was fucking awful. Like it's on TV all the time at Elizabeth's parents' house on like the weekends in the summer and shit when it's like running on FX. And I'm like, hey guys, we could be watching anything else right now and I'd be happy. Like I'll watch HGTV right now. I cannot bear to like watch this dumb fucking movie.
I'm going to sound like a madman. I prefer Jurassic World 2 to the first one.
You are a fucking madman, by the way.
And the reason is I find Jurassic World 1 just really generically stupid, like in a boring way. Jurassic World 2 is like a horrible B movie on like a $200 million budget.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's like so many laughable moments in it that I kind of like it weirdly.
Dude. It reminds me of like, we're off topic a bunch, but it's fine. We're making good commentary.
This is on topic to me. I wanted to get into this.
Like for me, one of my biggest things I can't stand about the continuation of franchises, like I'm like mentally fucking checking out as a person. I'm like I'm done. Seriously. I am fucking done with the overly corporatized bullshit. I'm fucking over it. I cannot state that enough. I work next to a guy and he's an older gentleman. Like he's probably 50 now. He is always talking to me about like Star Wars and a bunch of like Disney movies and like, you know, like I get it. I get why you like it because like you loved it as a kid. When those things came out, they were like the biggest fucking deal to you. But like I got to watch them after the fact.
What are you specifically
Like Star
referencing?
Wars and like the TV shows around Star Wars, like Mandalorian and all that stuff. I'm like, there's too much going on. There's too much fan service. Like the things don't feel small and contained anymore to the point where like you can enjoy them as a single thing. Like everything has to be setting up the next thing. And this TV show is going to tie in with this movie. And this movie is going to lead into the next big long. And I'm like, when I talk to you about Spider-Man No Way Home, when we watched that and I was like, dude, I think the movie is going to age poorly. Like it's too much.
Then you were right.
And I was right. When I think about Tom Holland Spider-Man now, I'm like, man, that was like really a waste of a third movie because it was like you're piggybacking two Spider-Men on what otherwise could be like a very impactful third act for the character. And it like really dumbs down whatever serious like development Tom Holland could have had as Peter Parker. And it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And that bothers me because then when we watch something like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, or even like Dune Part 1, and I know Dune Part 2 is coming and it's going to be fucking immaculate. Like I've read the books and I've seen the newest trailer, and like the more and more I've got to like just see shots, I'm like, dude, this is going to be perfect homage to the book. And then I get frustrated as a viewer when it comes to these huge franchises because it's like, man, it's too much money for me to enjoy it anymore. I can visually see the money and it's exhausting because it doesn't feel like anything's coming from the heart anymore.
They can't take any risks
Exactly.
because the new thing costs $300 million to make.
Exactly. And I'm tired. I'm tired of it. When you have like Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, which very clearly it's a huge fucking budget for an animated film and like it's very, very successful. But the reason why those films are so amazing is because the themes are fucking insane and the visuals are fucking insane.
It's new.
It's something beautifully crafted in its own realm. And don't get me wrong, in 12 years when they've made the 18th one and I'm exhausted and I don't want to see it anymore, I'll probably feel that way. But it's like, man, it feels like something special is going on here.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of Spider-Mans in my life.
Exactly.
I'm can't say I'm sick of it yet.
You know what the thing is, though? Is like Spider-Man is one of the best written characters of all time, of all superheroes. Like him and Batman are like the best.
Spider-Man is one of my favorite fictional characters.
And there's a reason why he's so popular. It's because anybody can wear the mask. I know the first one talks about that. And like, it's really fucking meta. It's smart. It's fucking smart. It's one of the smartest movies I've ever seen. Like both of them. They're fucking intelligent for the time.
We're so off the rails right now.
I know, it's fine. But like, and then when we're coming back to, let's come back to Jurassic Park. It's like, it's successful. And I even like The Lost World. I actually like The Lost World.
Do you?
I do. Because it's Jeff Goldblum's movie. But Jeff Goldblum as a character is taken more seriously than he is in the first film. And that's what I like about it.
I don't know. He doesn't feel like the same guy in the second one to me.
I know, but he feels like a character that's been fear-stricken by...
True.
But what happened in the first one.
Very
and then
true.
he's like, hey, I'm actually intelligent and I'm going to show you like my fucking medical and mathematical background that I had in the first film is going to shine through in the second one. And I like that. I mean, it's not like a great movie, but I like the character. The character has his own arc.
Yeah.
Now it feels like let's have a character that's 40 years in the franchise now, and let's bring him back to. And they do it with like the most recent Jurassic Park. And I talked to my mom about it because she went and watched it when it was in theaters, and she was like, I thought I was gonna like it because they brought back this character and that character, and I'm like,
nope.
I'm like, they fucking got you. I'm like, they fucking got you. They sold you on an advertisement, and they got you, and I hate that.
I watched like half of that one. That's the only Jurassic World or like anything related to this franchise that I wasn't able to finish all the way through. But they had Laura Dern talking about like, oh, so-and-so is like slipping into my DMs. Ugh. Like, who's writing this shit? Like, it's...
I can't believe you just said that.
No one feels like the same person.
Yeah,
like,
man. That's just dumb.
They all came back for the check.
Exactly. And that pisses me off, man. It gets under my skin. Like, not that I even watched it, but like to know that like someone paid money to see it, or like somebody has like given their time towards something like that. Like, none of that shit's coming from the heart. One of the things that I think my favorite films in like this day and age that we live in, like films that are new, it's like I always feel like they're at least coming from somewhere deep down that someone's trying to like push through like a really unique perspective. And the corporate shit is like, it's the lunchbox shit, man. I can't stand it. It's the merchandise.
What do you think about Jurassic Park 3?
It's okay.
No one ever talks about that one.
It's a weird one because it kind of feels like King Kong-y.
It's honestly a movie that's like 90% chase scenes.
Yeah, it is. It's weird. I know Alan's in it, right?
Yeah, Sam Neill came back for it. Laura Dern has like 5 minutes of screen time in it. It's a weird movie. It's kind of fun, but it also feels like the script was written in like a weekend.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Like the pterodactyls, and when they make the pterodactyls, like where were the pterodactyls, by the way, in the first one? Like,
I don't understand like where they are in that movie, like in relation to Jurassic Park 1.
They're on the same park grounds, but it's like overgrown in like other side of the island and shit. And like there's like water animals and shit too, and like none of that stuff was like ever discussed in the first film, and like, you know what I mean, it gets weird.
Even as a kid, I noticed that the movie just kind of like ends really fast. I think like the Navy shows up out of nowhere and they're like, we're saved, and then like the credits hit. And as a kid I was like, huh?
What? You know what's really bizarre, and something that I can't get my fucking head around, is like, don't you think by the second one they'd be like, we need to fucking nuke this island. We need to get these things off the fucking planet.
You would think.
You would think the government would step in and go, hey, if anyone has anything to do with dinosaurs whatsoever, you're considered a federal criminal in all of these nations. And we're going to fucking ballistic missile this shit. We're going to make a military. I don't know. Just like,
They opened the park again, or for the first time, technically, I guess. But they tried it a second time, technically, in the reboot.
Yeah, like Jurassic World and shit. It's like,
This would never happen.
no. It would be crimes against humanity.
There's a few like big scenes I don't think we've talked about. I think you like briefly mentioned it earlier, but the morality discussion they have about when they're in the room with like the projectors on each side of the room. I just think the dialogue here is excellent, even though there's a few points that Ian Malcolm makes that I think are like kind of weird scientifically. Like, I don't know if I agree with them. Like he says, you stood on the work of what came before. Like, you didn't earn this. But isn't that like what science is? Like, you take what we know and you build on it.
Yeah, but
I know it's like specific in this instance, but the wording was weird to me for some reason.
I think it's like it's kind of saying like science can go too far. Obviously, like that's what the movie's saying. But like when you kind of like frame it up against like actual real life events, where like again we're gonna talk about it like with Oppenheimer, but I think that movie will like shine a light on like what actually happened to that guy.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like in a way that like it'll be more like you'll like actually empathize with the fucking dude. You know, atomic nukes, chemical warfare, when humanity starts manipulating the very fabric of reality. It's like kind of fucking scary to think about. One of my biggest things right now is like food. I've been so anxious almost about like what I'm eating now. Because and it's not about like for nutrition, it's about like what is on my food, like what's in my food. Like am I eating processed foods with like fucking hydrogenated vegetable oils that is like ruining my liver? And like
that's weird, dude. I've kind of been on this lately too. Like I've been more aware of what I've been eating.
It's like kind of scary because I think a lot about it in terms of like what is this going to do to my body in 40 years from now? And like what is my brain going to look like? And knowing like all the harmful shit that's going on, I notice how much like that stuff affects my behavior, like food like that, and like how it makes me feel. I feel like really weird, like even drinking like Coke or like Diet Coke right now. Like when I drink a pop, I'm like, I feel like I'm drinking poison, man.
I never do it anymore. I
literally say I'm eating poison or like I'm drinking poison. Like in my head, I'm like, this is fucking poison. And like I should not be drinking this shit.
We say this as this podcast is sponsored by Urban Artifact, by the way.
Alcohol, yeah. That's another thing. Like, I don't know.
I've been slowing down on alcohol lately. I don't drink ever anymore.
I'm either a social drinker or me and Elizabeth will share a cocktail together, and like that's the only way. I don't like drinking to get drunk anymore, man. We've had this discussion many times, but I don't want to get too off topic. But
here we go again.
We're not very tight tonight. It's all right. Just thinking about like, okay, what has science helped us accomplish? And then like also how is our knowledge now affecting us in harmful ways? And
yeah,
it's very confusing and it's something it's hard to manage on a societal level.
It's like, what are you doing with
this power now?
Yeah.
Essentially. Knowledge is power. I mean, you can use it to your advantage or you can destroy things.
What's the exact line of dialogue that Goldblum says? You did it before you knew what you had or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact.
You slapped it on lunchbox before you knew what you had, you know, basically saying, you know, it's really good commentary. And like, that's one of my favorite moments for the character, by the way. Like it's actually the moments he feels the most serious. And what's really strange to even think about, it feels like his character dis-a-fucking-peers.
I don't think I really thought about this until one of my most recent viewings where he
disappears after the T-Rex.
He gets like brushed under like this straw shit from that collapsed building,
the collapsed bathroom,
and he like kind of just like sits around the rest of the movie.
Yeah, he doesn't even feel integral to anything happening in Act 3 at all. Like he's being administered aid, and they're on the run from the dinosaur in the Jeep, and then he gets administered aid at the compound, and then he disappears. Yes, he doesn't have like any more significant dialogue from here on out.
He's only here to have what is weirdly the most sexual shot of the movie.
Yeah, that was really bizarre.
With his like shirt unbuttoned, to like his stomach out and shit.
All fucking oiled up. He's like fucking all oiled up.
I think this is the first time where that came up, and I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, it's
like,
that was really strange.
I'm like, have I been looking away every time that shot's come up in the past?
It's like, hey, remember how he was just under a big pile of brush? Look at his fucking dick root. Here you go. It's on fucking screen.
What does he do after that? He's definitely not in... He never comes face to face with like a raptor or anything.
No, he like just like helps on the walkie-talkie with John for Laura Dern. Like that's it.
That's so weird.
It's a weird thing for his character, man. It's very strange. Can we just talk about like the fact that the motherfucker of all motherfuckers, fucking Samuel L. Jackson, is in this film? He's just there.
Dude, pre-Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, man.
He's a side guy. He's one of the best, like, ever.
Dude, his filmography as an actor, he does like fun stuff that is stupid sometimes, but he also like is playing either a minor role or he's in a Spike Lee movie or some shit. But like he's like really grown into something great as an actor. And I love like how his philosophy and personality and opinions like really shine through in his work. Like he's such an expressive dude.
Dude, even here with like the limited screen time and like he's not a big thing yet, he gives so much to like these.
He commands the screen, man.
Hold on to your butts. Like, I love that line.
He's constantly hanging the cigarette out of his mouth. He's like, well, there's like 7 million lines of code and we can't, I'm like, fuck yeah, man.
He sells how stressful the situation
Yeah.
is. He's sucking on the fucking filter of the cigarette by the time the movie
Yes.
is at the end.
I love that, man.
Did you know that there was supposed to be a scene filmed of his death?
Oh, dude, that's right. His arm shows up, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's killed off screen. Like the arm appears on Laura Dern's shoulder.
That's that Carpenter shit that I like, by the way.
That was like a very Halloween-esque
Yeah.
type scene,
Yeah.
right? A storm blew through Costa Rica where they filmed, or takes place in Costa Rica, filmed in Hawaii, which is weird because a storm blows through in storyline.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like the pivotal reason shit goes wrong. There was a set built for his death scene, and like this hurricane destroyed a bunch of shit. So they couldn't film it. He would have had even more screen time.
Oh, dude. Speaking of the rain, like Ned's death, to me is like one of the most terrifying moments in the film because it's a very isolated moment. And dude, this actor, man, his screams are like horrifying.
This is a weird casting choice to me. Isn't like this guy like a Seinfeld dude? Or
he does look like, what's his face?
I remember he was in like a Space Jam when I was growing up.
Yes.
Like he's a villain in that.
Yes. He was, he's in something else with, is Bill Murray in Space Jam?
He is.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in
It's
years.
a weird time. Space Jam was one of my favorites as a kid, by the way. I could sing the, hey, you, what you gonna do? Hey. The beginning, opening track. I loved it.
My two favorite movies growing up were Jurassic Park and Space Jam. And it was weird that like Wayne Knight, like Nedry, was like a villain-esque kind of character in both of these movies. So like he was like I don't want to say like nightmare fuel, but he was like my antagonist as a kid. I was like, that guy sucks.
He let's face it, he's a little bit of a blob. He's a little bit of a blob.
When I see him now in this, like I'm like, he's so charismatic in this.
Yeah.
Like he's very funny.
I think as a kid, I think you look at fat people a little bit differently than you do as an adult.
You do.
Because you don't see them for their personality, you see them for their body. Because you're like, that's the fastest way you identify as a kid.
And they play up that cliche with this character.
Yeah,
like, His
This
desk.
yeah.
He's got like Butterfingers and trash and
Man.
his meeting with, is it Dotson or Dogson?
Dachshund. We got Dachshund here.
He's like having a feast to himself when he first shows up. Like,
come on, sit down. He puts the fucking like shaving cream on the pie. Like that shit bothered me even now as an adult.
Same.
I'm like, why would you do that? Why would you ruin a piece of pie? You have a napkin, you fucker.
That was one of those weird things I would always remember as a kid about this movie. The
Because
shaving cream.
it's absurd. It's like, why would you even remotely think? I know it like plays up the schlobbiness of him, but even as a director's choice for the character, I'm like, why would you like that's just idiotic at that point, which like kind of makes his character a little bit unbelievable. And like I wanted to draw back into that because we talked earlier about like him being his father's son.
Yeah.
Like that's, even though like how great the film is, when I like hyper focus on that plot point, I'm like, dude, that kind of like ruins the movie a little bit for me, because it's like, how could somebody be so dumb to let this happen? Even though like, while the dinosaurs, the main attraction of this film, are on screen and they're terrifying, and like the way our characters interact with them, like in these meta ways and like in dialogue commentary and really unique visual gags, I keep getting drawn back into the fact like this should not be happening.
Like this is the guy that sets it all off.
It's so disbelievable that like this person could exist.
He's uncharacteristically cartoony.
Yes.
And it's a good thing that they keep him separated from like the main characters.
Exactly. There's nobody that meets him on a middle ground.
I think Hammond is the most major person that he knows. His dad,
Yes.
supposedly.
And that's like, I mean, that's a good point, because it does like cut him off as far as like him to be able to establish relationships with other characters. He's just like an idiot, and he does the idiot thing, which like, now that I think about it, is a little bit more tied closely like classic like Shakespeare or something. Like the character as an idiot serves a purpose to destroy any sort of good and order. It's the chaos.
For some reason, I was thinking of like Fargo levels of incompetence in the villains. I don't know if you remember that far back really, but like stupidity is the driving point.
We watched Fargo. I forgot.
Yeah.
God, that felt like forever ago.
You know what I mean? Like stupidity is the driving force behind like the conflict.
It's a lot darker in that film, but yes.
Nedry is so like off to the side in this, but it's weird that his mistake just so happens to have like a ripple effect on everybody else. he's not really even an antagonist. He's just like an event that fucks up and like
It's like the butterfly effect type shit.
Yeah.
You know. Well, Jeff Goldblum says chaos theory. That's chaos theory. Like,
yeah.
which is like, I don't even think it's really referenced very well in modern day science. I haven't heard about it in a long time, but yeah, like being able to tie that in, that is chaos theory in motion right there.
There was something that was really bugging me about Nedry's death scene.
Oh, God,
Where,
that freaks me out. I don't like it.
And this is something that I learned yesterday that actually like made it less bad. And I don't mean like the circumstances of him being eaten, but when he's like trying to climb down the waterfall. When I was watching it last week, I swear to God, I heard the slide whistle sound effect when he slips. Like the banana peel sound, like whoop.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Pew!
It would be like in a 50s like TV
Yeah,
show.
or like a cartoon, like Tom and Jerry.
And I heard it, and I was like, that was weird. There's no way that's
They
in
did
there.
that, yeah.
And I rewound it.
They did it
And
again.
it was there again.
Oh,
and I was like,
shit, dude.
And I'm like, I hate that. Like, that's like the corniest sound editing. And I was listening to a podcast about Jurassic Park a couple days ago, just to, like brush up on like random info. And they mentioned the slide whistle in the podcast. And they said that it's not in post-production. His shoe slipping on the rock
rubbery
made the exact replica of the old slide whistle sound. And Spielberg thought it was so funny, he kept it in.
Oh, that's fucking sick.
So it's still silly, but at least it wasn't like, we got to add the slip sound effect like in post. You know what I mean?
I've never noticed that, but if that was the case, it would feel like the cartoony character is breaking a fourth wall of some sort in this world.
I feel like in most movies, one of my least favorite tropes is kids. Like,
Yeah.
Like the
Oh, yeah.
forceful use of kids.
Yep.
How did you feel about the way they were implemented into this movie?
I fucking love them. I love them.
You do love them?
They're the best. Like they like what make the film actually still fun, because otherwise it would be horror. Without
True.
having those kids there, I think they add a level of, they kind of buff off the harshness and the actual terror that's happening like on the screen. I think the most important part about having the kids there is thematically Alan as a character grows through this hardship with these kids now. Because at the beginning of the film, before there was hardship, it looked like Alan was going to take on a fatherly role in the future anyway, and that was going to be a challenge for him to overcome. And then you add in the Jurassic Park element. It's like, okay, yeah, the Jurassic Park still happens, but that original problem that was set up in the beginning of the film, like in the first few minutes, is now solved. Now you can see that Alan actually can be a father.
I do love those like wholesome moments that Alan has with the kids, like in the treetops.
Yeah. I feel like they serve a really good purpose as children on screen. And then like also like you can kind of tell like these kids are rich, and so maybe it doesn't feel like they ever get like this level of attention. It's all, they're always showered with gifts, and then like they actually get showered with like real fatherly care.
I feel like I've kind of softened on the hating kid actors thing as I've gotten older. They're like pretty good in this movie.
They are.
I think like as far as child actors go, they're both expressive and semi-charismatic. Do they feel like real children of this age? No.
A little too smart.
Way too smart. Kids are always super smart in movies. Like, kids are fucking stupid.
Yes.
They're bright, but they're stupid.
Yes. They don't have the vocabulary that these kids exhibit because they're being written for. Like they have a script that with big vocabulary that they've had to practice for 9 months.
I don't mind that the little boy, Tim is his name, right? Tim and Lex, is that the kids?
Yeah. Yep.
Tim's fascination with dinosaurs, like he's read Alan Grant's book and stuff. Like, it's not that far-fetched that he would be super interested in that. The one character trait they try to give to Lex is that she's like a hacker in 1993. Like, she's like a 10-year-old hacker.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
I feel like at the time when they wrote that, they were hedging their bets, thinking the audience wouldn't know anything about that, and they probably didn't at the time. Most people didn't know about like computers at all.
Yeah.
Back then.
Damn, that's weird to think
Like
about.
in like 2023, this is really dumb. I don't know. They were implemented well.
Yeah, I like especially Lex, her actress. She was like so like I believed her cries when Alan was giving Tim CPR. I'm like, dude, that was like actually like almost made me cry a little bit. I'm like, wow, that was really good.
I loved their reactions in the T-Rex scene. Like,
yeah. Their fear struck me. I cannot tell you how afraid I was while watching the film. I'm watching it in the evening, and like I had like worked out and like made a really good meal for dinner, and I'm like the happiest little boy, you know. I'm like, "Ooh, I've had a good evening. I did my laundry and you know, I packed my bags for the weekend." And then I'm sitting here in my pajamas with a snack, and I'm like fucking like holding my knees to my chest and like getting like really emotionally involved in a film that I have seen many times, and it still got me. I'm like, wow, man, like I don't know, I was very enthralled in a way that I wasn't really expecting to, because when you originally suggested it, I'm like, okay, we're just gonna like pick this film apart, and I'm like, oh, it's Jurassic Park, like I'm gonna watch it and be like, what the fuck ever, you know what I mean? It's Jurassic Park, it's a classic, we've all seen it a million times, but it's like,
you did say that.
Yeah.
You were like, I can't remember the last time I watched it like without commercial breaks.
Yeah.
Like starting in the middle randomly. You said when I recommended it, like I said, it's one of my favorites. And you're like, well, to me, it's like, I was never really, like, you like trailed off. I know this because I just edited the Warrior episode a few days ago. Have you come around?
Well, like I liked it more now than I ever have. I appreciated it so much more from like a critical eye. My enjoyment as a kid was the spectacle, and now mine was like the technicals. And like we didn't really talk about like the animatronics as much as we should, and like the CGI as much as we should, but like we don't really have to.
Everybody always
it's
talks
understandable.
About that.
Yeah. But to me, I don't know, the way the script like felt really good, even though like when you kind of have like it's a little bit of like dead ends with like Jeff Goldblum's character, or like maybe even like the son being like the mastermind of a fucking terrible night for all these characters. You know, it just felt like there was a really unique payoffs. Like the visual gags were like really subtle, where they can go missed if you weren't hunting for them, which like as a kid, I never got it. So with this critical eye, it was like just an extra layer of enjoyment for what I otherwise could have like kind of just wrote off.
It's kind of easy to forget these classics, like how good they really are.
Yeah. You know what I mean? You think they're a classic because it's old and it's been written on and devolved. But when you go back to like the very beginning, it was like, man, like this was the spark. It had the it factor even then, even though you look at it with like a bland taste in your mouth.
Yeah. I feel like even though I loved it as a kid, I feel like when I relearned my love for Jurassic Park in my 20s.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like
still stayed with you, you know?
It's one of my all-time favorites still.
Good.
Undoubtedly.
Piss break.
You have a question for me? We're recording.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that John Hammond is portrayed as like antagonistic in this movie? How do you think we're supposed to feel about the morality of his character? Because in the end, he like just walks away fine.
Yeah. I think if like they would have killed him off, it would have felt really weird because of like having his grandchildren on scene, on screen, very heavily written into themes and our plots, and they're a huge integral part of the film. If you would have like killed him off, it'd have been like, oh, hey, that's like still their grandpa.
True.
But so I think his character kind of takes a weird spot where I don't think he's a antagonist. It's almost like he's a tragic character. And our antagonists are people like Ned, which is like an idiot antagonist, and then like our actual antagonist of our dinosaurs. They're not portrayed in a tragic way though, which is like something that the later films take, like where I think specifically Jurassic World makes it more tragic. But you know, I think our antagonists really lie strongly with the monster, you know.
It's about survival.
Yes.
The reason I ask is because I think it's just a very weird clashing idea for me in terms of like what the movie is about, like playing God and trying to like replicate nature.
Yeah.
And like Hammond is the one that set this in motion. One of the like most quoted phrases in the film, like it's said multiple times in the movie, I spared no expense. But we kind of learned that like that's not entirely true.
Yeah.
Muldoon makes a comment about, I requested that we should have had better locks and like this technology and yada yada.
Yeah.
And, like we need better guns. Nedry being underpaid in this position, like he did spare expenses.
And that rings even more true when he's talking to Laura Dern while he's eating ice cream. You know, he even says it at the end of that scene where she's like, the ice cream is good. And he's like, I spared no expense. But we didn't even talk about it. We're drinking Miller Lite tonight. I meant to say that at the beginning, and I meant to say I spared no expense. That was going to be one of my gags. I forgot. Fuck. I ruined it.
I'm so glad that you brought it up, though.
What's even funnier is that I was eating Chick-fil-A in my car, rewatching some scenes and today for lunch, and I'm dipping my fucking fries in this little packet of ketchup. And I hear the line, "I spared no expense." And I'm like, they sure didn't. They fucking package our ketchup individually. Like, so fucking stupid. But, you know, his character is talking about, like, he used to run, like, a flea circus or something.
Yes.
And I'm like, dude, this guy's a fucking bum, kind of.
He's a, like a hustler, in a way.
Yeah.
A scam artist.
He's like a weird investor guy. He's just a guy with money. And he wants to, like, show the world. And I'm like, dude, you're everybody with money with, like, no strong moral compass and character.
Yeah. I think the movie kind of portrays him as being just ignorant of how dumb he's being with everything. But, like, is that an excuse for this character? He's played up very cutesy at times. And I don't know, like, if I love that choice in terms of what he is. You know what I mean?
He's kind of a monster. And they kind of, like, play it off in a goofy way.
So many people die in this franchise because of him.
Yeah, he's a fucking monster, dude.
But in this movie, he's like,
he's
I
grandpa.
do declare.
Yeah.
Like, he's that kind of guy.
I do declare I spare no expense. Yeah. Fuck him.
I can't even remember, like, what the fate of him is in this series.
I think, like, he, like, has to, like, go to fucking court a couple times, but that might be it.
He shows up in the Lost World, and I think
In
he's
the
like,
beginning or something.
he's like sick. I think, like, he's like, I don't want to say he's on his deathbed, but it looks like that.
I think you're right.
Then I don't remember him being in Jurassic Park 3.
The ending scenes.
Yeah. I think this is, like, the weakest part of the movie.
It is. It is. I think the Raptors being, like, the final climax is amazing because it, like, really has, like, driven on Alan's fear of raptors, knowing that they're the most dangerous and would be the hardest to survive.
We're going from, like, big monster to something tactical.
Yes. You know, something always really rung with me as a kid, and it's, like, stayed with me for a long time. And anytime we talk about dinosaurs ever, I always think about what my science teacher said. And she said, if dinosaurs had never gone extinct, she was like, we may be, like, this room may have been filled with extremely intelligent velociraptors. She was like, we may all be velociraptors. And, like, this is, like, a really wild tangent to take, but and, like, this is a little bit deeper than I should take it, but I always think about, like, how consciousness and consciousness and the way it has arisen and how we seem to understand it, it's like consciousness is, like, all around us all the time. Like, I think the universe is conscious and has its own consciousness. Like, I'm gonna get a little woo-woo here with you, but I think, you know, I think we have, like, a planetary consciousness, like nations, and, you know, it's definitely, you can feel it in, like, society and our structures and, like, how we become aware as life forms on this planet as we understand it. And to think about how if life hadn't gone extinct, consciousness would expand to that point. And she is right. We could have been a fucking room full of velociraptors with pencil and paper.
If anything had the chance to be us, then it would have been them. That makes sense.
Intelligence-wise, you know, I mean, like, they were the smartest fucking things in the world.
They really play it up in this movie.
And maybe, like, the film itself kind of gives culturally a little bit more relevance than it would if not for that. But, like, yeah, they were the most tactical. They were, you know, like the big cats of that time. They were smart. They knew how to hunt. You know, they're best all around.
That intelligence leads to really great tense scenes with, like, the kids in the kitchen.
Oh my God. Like, it still got me. I forgot about it, but the reflection in the stainless steel appliances where the raptor runs into that. And I'm like, oh my God, she's going to die. I don't remember her dying. And then it got me. I'm like, that's smart, man. Like, the tension they build, it really removes your ability to, like, problem solve quickly.
I've always loved the shot of the raptor's paw unlocking the door.
Yeah.
And, like, it's blowing steam into the window.
Yeah. And the sound design around that too, like like you can feel the bass moving off of it. Like, that shit terrifies me.
This reminded me of The Thing the most. Like, the hand, like, unlocking the door. That felt like straight out of The Thing. But the reason that the finale kind of falls flat is it just, like, wraps up out of nowhere. Weirdly, like, the T-Rex comes in with the baby face turn and, like, kills the raptors for our main characters. Like,
yeah, I get, like, really frustrated by that. And, like, I don't really know how you, like, wrap that up, though. You would have to make the characters more intelligent in the end. Then it would turn into The Thing where it's, like, guns and fire.
Yeah. And I wouldn't want it to go that way.
Yeah. But how do you do it?
I find it silly that the T-Rex hits a stealth move in this scene where
it's like, oh, you couldn't feel the fucking shaking of the ground like you did earlier.
Like, we've established that its footsteps could be heard in other counties, basically. It's like he like went all Splinter Cell all of a sudden in the scene.
Splinter Cell.
It's weird.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Those are great games, by the way.
I've totally forgotten about that series, by the way. I don't know why that reference came up in my mind.
They were amazing, by the way. They were some of the best games of the time.
I did love that series, but I forgive like how stupid all this is because the shot of the T-Rex with the banner falling down that says when dinosaurs like ruled the earth. I love.
It's the classic cheese.
That's amazing. It is so schlocky.
Yeah,
but like in a perfect way.
Yeah, I guess like it's weird. It puts our characters in a weird IQ level by the end of the film, where like they've otherwise exhibited like exemplary skills and intelligence problem solving for the situation that they're in, and then it kind of like dumbs them the fuck down right at the end.
They just get bailed out.
Yeah, they get bailed out. It's their get out of jail free card. It's their MacGuffin. The T-Rex is the MacGuffin.
I don't know if I would say they're dumb by the end, but they just get cornered. I think in a situation where like if you were out in the wild and saw like a tiger, it's like you're fucked.
And there's like 3 tigers. Yeah, you're fucked.
Yeah, it's just they get bailed out by chance, and then that's the end of the movie.
It's chaos theory. Whatever the fuck, however you do Jeff Goldblum.
That can happen will happen. So
I know you say it's one of your favorites. For me, it's like it's still really great. It's fucking Jurassic Park. I mean, I don't know how you get around it, but I think I enjoyed it more now than I ever have in my entire life. And I don't really think there's like anything to like take away from it drastically to where it would put it in a spot where I'm like, fuck you, Jurassic Park. But I don't know. I respect it, but like I don't think I love it as much as you. I don't know if I should like rate it a 9 out of 10 because I'm like I don't think it's like a masterpiece, but then I'm also like, but it's like not really flawed in a way that like I discredit it. You know, it's like should it be a 10 out of 10? You know,
that's quite the dilemma you have on your hands right now.
I don't know. I feel like a 9.5. That's about as close as I can get, dude. It's like almost there for me. It's almost there. You know,
that's completely fair. I can't put that against you, and I don't think that I can ask for any more than that. For me, obviously, I'm gonna give it a 10.
Yeah.
It's not a perfect movie, but I think the highs are just some of my favorite moments in like movie history. Yeah, honestly, man. I can't deny the nostalgia bias.
We didn't even really talk about it, but like the nostalgia aspect, like the cars and the paint jobs on the cars, and like
it's all so iconic.
Yeah, exactly. I was literally gonna say like the iconography was it was perfect, man. It like I love that. It is so nostalgic, and I don't know. I had a lot of fun with it, man. That was a good choice. That was like kind of felt like a little bit like a Terminator episode that like, one of the Lost episodes.
That's a throwback.
Yeah,
we were chaotic on this one.
Yeah, good.
It was fun. Homie,
I wanted to do something fun, but I also am gonna save it. I think after doing Jurassic Park, just like feeling the tone of tonight, I want to do a little bit more of a serious tone.
Hey, we're doing a course correction here.
Yeah,
you're doing a me.
Yeah. Well, I just like tonally, I feel like the next few weeks for me are gonna like cool off a little bit. I'm gonna have like time to like kind of get back to center, and I want to do something that's gonna challenge me a little bit more and get me a little bit more excited for a deeper discussion. We have a Christopher Nolan movie coming up soon. So, and I haven't seen this movie in about 5 years. And it is the first film that I recognized Nolan outside of Batman and where I started to really fall in love with his style. I would really love to talk about Inception. I'm excited to like revisit this film. I think it was 2012? 2010. Okay. I'm excited to see like how the score has like developed over time, like compared to his other films. And I'm really excited to get into. It's such a fucking complicated plot, and the characters are so deeply written, and I'm excited to talk about the intricacies with like our critical eye now. And I don't think I've seen the movie since we've been this in the zone,
like up to knowledge of film shit.
Yeah,
this is funny. I kind of saw this one coming when I was editing the Warrior podcast. I noticed that you said, I'm done with my holy trinity of like old underrated movies that I loved.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder where we're going after this. And then I edited.
That is funny. I did say the holy trinity of underrated films for me.
and then I went to edit the Spider-Verse bonus episode that we did. And you bring up Inception on it. And you said, I've been thinking about that one lately. It's coming up soon. And for some reason, I was like, this might be the next one for some reason. This feels right.
Yeah.
Inception, such a fun movie. There's a lot of shit to hit on this one. And this is like Nolan that is like peak.
This is a sweet spot for his filmography. I'm super excited. Elizabeth wanted me to recommend Bug's Life tonight because we just watched it over the weekend.
I haven't seen that one in a long time.
That was the first time I had watched it front to back ever in my life.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, I had never seen it. It was the one Pixar film I was blind on.
What'd you think?
It was awesome. I fucking loved it.
Kind of underrated.
It is. Literally, just to like drop this in because it was going to be like one of my favorite points we brought up if I did recommend it. But at that time, Pixar still did like blooper reels at the end of their credits, and it was fucking amazing. They did blooper reels that they animated. And when we watched it and those came up, I was like, holy shit. The nostalgia factor that brought up inside was amazing.
I can't believe you've never seen that movie.
Yeah, it was really great. I loved it. But Inception, Christopher Nolan, we're going to be riding Nolan's dick and then like Villeneuve's dick after that.
Wait a second.
We might be able to,
This is the first DiCaprio movie that we've ever done on the podcast.
Is it really?
It is. Other than like talking about Tarantino
We
stuff
talk about Django
passing,
and
like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
DiCaprio.
We've never done DiCaprio.
Super excited for this.
Tom Hardy.
We just talked about Tom, so.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Uh-huh.
Oh, Ellen Page is in this too. Ken Watanabe.
Oh, shit.
Is it Watanabe? Are you okay?
I just inhaled Miller Lite. Oh, shit.
Breathe it in.
But yeah, Cillian Murphy. We're going to talk about him again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. This is like a classic Nolan cast. Yeah, I'm excited, man.
I'm ready for it.
It's going to be good. How was it? We did a good job. Getter, if you could do me one more favor tonight and get us out of here.
Adios.